Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Wow. Been another day where there was honestly quite a bit of big news coming out. I'm sure you've already heard several different things. Like I say, several different big things happened today. A lot of information being exchanged, talked about. Man, I'll tell you, this country is headed in an awful scary and dark direction. Just right off the top of my head, of course, you know from the title of the show, I'm sure you probably heard. If not, we'll go into detail. But the Pentagon has banned the military from allowing them to watch or engage, and I'm using those terms, okay? Those are my words. I want to make that clear. To watch or engage with what they deem extremist content on social media. So, again, my biggest concern with what I just said is the words "what they deem." Because if they've got a blank check, so to speak, to write on that one, that's trouble. The other big thing that's being talked about is this bill, and I don't have the number off the top of my head. Everybody and their brother and sisters talking about it in New York, that basically would allow them to, again, at their discretion, deem somebody a public health threat. And under such classification, they can pretty much disappear you and literally put you in a camp. That's mind-blowing. Now, I do believe that's still in committee right now, is where that's at. So it's not like it's going to be put into law tomorrow. That I know of, it is New York. However, we really need to watch this stuff close, because it's gonna creep. If they can get a foothold with this kind of stuff, it's gonna creep. Now, maybe if you live somewhere like Texas or Florida or Oklahoma, you might be safe, for good, but you definitely would have a long delay before it got to you, I would think. However, we live in the not so great state of Illinois, and basically we're hosed. So there's that. Pardon me. Wow, just insane craziness. So I got something a little, I'm gonna say humorous to share with you. It's frustrating, yes, but I don't let it frustrate me. I don't let it get me mad. In fact, I look for the humor and things, and there's humor in this. So anyway, I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. You know that I've been in a back and forth with YouTube, and because they monetized us, I can't remember, the first of whatever month, September or whatever, and we still haven't shown anything, as in zilch, nada, nothing, for revenue generation. And that's a little odd. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't have a lot of views or tons of subscribers, so I'm not expecting a ton or anything like that. But it's goose eggs, and it's been goose eggs, and that's never changed. And to this moment, it's still goose eggs. Well, I contacted them and let them know, hey, there's an issue here. And it's been a really slow back and forth. However, early this morning when I awoke and checked my email, sure enough, I had another message from YouTube. And So this is what they advised me to do. Now, mind you, been monetized, I think, September 1st, since September 1st, all the way to now. And nothing, zilch, is going into my revenue. Now, mind you, every single video that I have uploaded, not my live shows, but every single video that I have uploaded since we got monetized, remonetized, has been monetized. Every one. So there should at least be a nickel. Right? So anyway, this is the email I got this morning. Check this out. And I love how they begin it. This is perfect. Hi there. I hope you're having a great start of the week. The next sentence should say, because I'm going to ruin that shit right now. Pardon me. But anyway, it says, I know you have been waiting to hear from us about your channel's estimated earnings. We forwarded this case to our internal team. We all know how that is. The internal team. I better not comment any further on that because I'll probably get in trouble. Who reviewed your issue. I've now heard back from them, and here is what they advised. Now get ready for this. In order to get this issue resolved, please note that you need to leave the YouTube Partner Program and reapply for the YouTube Partner Program. In this case, when reapplying for YouTube Partner Program, make sure that your channel meets the eligibility criteria outlined below. And so they've got, their things, which, by the way, already done, I'm sure there are some things that we probably, and I'm going to show you one, okay? And I have no issue whatsoever with their action or anything. That's perfectly fine with me. I get it. I'm good with that. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. But notice, this email came in at 3:16 a.m. Okay, I did respond back. And I wasn't super pleasant in my response. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't sit there and choose somebody out or anything like that. But, I mean, I'm a direct, straight-to-the-point kind of guy, I asked if I could speak to somebody directly because I'm not doing this. I said flat out, I am not going to click that demonetize button because then you guys just won't remonetize me. And I know they're the one that controls the buttons and the switches. All they got to do is flip it off in the first place. But I'm not going to do that for them. And there's a possibility that there's just a glitch with something somewhere. And, my hope and my prayer, because we really could use it, is that tomorrow, which is when it will usually hit your Google AdSense account, my hope when I wake up in the morning is that there's a nice surprise there. That's my hope. I really hope, because like I say, we could use it. But anyway, so then at 8:46 a.m., right, I get this email. After I emailed them back, I get this email. We have reviewed your content and determined that it may not be suitable for viewers under the age of 18. Per our community guidelines, as a result, we've age restricted the following content. And it was a review video on an e-cig that I did. That's it. Not a big deal. And so, like I say, I have no problem because I don't want anybody under the age of 18 to be using those products anyway. And when I say that, I'm not joking. I'm serious. So I have no issue with this. I probably should have, put it 18 plus when I put it up, to be honest. And I just didn't think about it because it's really not that big of an issue. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. Obviously it says there I didn't get a strike for it or anything else. They just age restricted the video. No big deal. And like I say, I actually agree with their decision. I have no problem with it. But I thought it was really interesting how that works, right? They ask me to leave the program. I respond to their email, letting them know I'm not just going to just click that button. And then, within hours later, oh, well, look at this video of yours. Okay. I've got no problem with them doing that. It was a vaping related video. No problem at all. But this whole thing of allowing me to monetize, and then the rubbing of the salt in the wound of actually letting me monetize all those videos, right? Because you could ask Jen, I've sat here with my jaw dropped open a number of times going, they let me monetize that? So, and nothing I do shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? What I'm getting at is I'm not doing anything to break the rules. I'm not saying I'm entitled to it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm not doing anything to break the rules. At least if not intentionally. Just here to tell you the truth. So I thought that was interesting. But I'm not the concern here. Like I say, I don't, that's, it'll help, yeah, and especially right now, it would help, but it is what it is. I am definitely not going to freak out over that, because like I say, it wouldn't be a ton anyway. Sorry, I didn't know what Jen said. So we've got this deal with the Pentagon, and this is concerning. And this, I don't know. Again, our channel, you would really have to, that's a far stretch to say that we would be extremists. I think we're pretty calm, pretty docile on most things. So it would be a stretch, but there are channels that I'm sure we all watch that most definitely would probably be labeled, in their eyes anyway, as extremist. And who knows? We could be, just simply because we try to tell the truth and we try not to back away from the truth. And that seems to be what they're trying to get rid of, to be honest. And I just find this really, really crazy. Let me switch over and bring up this article. RT put out one too, but this one definitely goes into more detail than RT's, and I'm concerned with this, absolutely. It says here, warning that extremism in the ranks is increasing. Pentagon officials issued detailed new rules Monday prohibiting service members from actively engaging in extremist activities. The new guidelines come nearly a year after some current and former service members participated in the riot at the U.S. Capitol, triggering a broad department review. According to the Pentagon, fewer than 100 military members are known to have been involved in substantiated cases of extremist activity in the past year. But they warn that the number may grow given recent spikes in domestic violent extremism, particularly among veterans. Officials said the new policy doesn't largely change what is prohibited, but is more of an effort to make sure troops are clear on what they can and can't do while still protecting their First Amendment right to free speech. And for the first time, it is far more specific about social media. Now, I don't know all of the rules, ins and outs. I've never served, and thank you to those that have. But I do know that there are some rules put in place about, an active service member and their opinion, right? I know that there are rules as to what they can say, how they can say it, and what have you. So there's always been some level of rules there. But this seems to be going a little bit, well, not a little bit. This seems to go a lot bit further. I mean, this is nuts. Check this out. The new policy lays out in detail the banned activities, which range from advocating terrorism, which, that should be there, or supporting the overthrow of the government, to fundraising or rallying on behalf of an extremist group, or liking or reposting extremist views on social media. Now hold up. Now, first, who is deeming what extremist? That's the first question that we have to ask, because we need to know exactly who and what you're going to put that label on. That's first. Secondly, we're even going to bring in liking or reposting. And again, I refer back to the first. You know, I think we've all seen several narratives that we don't go along with. We're not good with. So, if there's some type of scenario that a military member may not personally be good with, if they like or share content on social media, even just a like, even just clicking that like, they can really come under scrutiny and dealt with as if they involve themselves in terrorism. I mean, that's all included in this thing. I mean, there's no divider there. And I think that you and I would both agree that there is probably many different things that they may consider extremist, but certainly not terrorist. And it seems to me like they're maybe trying to blur those lines. And that is really to be concerned with. Now, see, I've warned about them redefining things and changing language and all of that for a very, very long time. Very long time. Back during the Boston Marathon bombing, I was raising hell. And of course, yes, that was way long before the Watchman news existed. Yeah, I'm telling you, I've been raising hell all my life. I was raising hell because they were redefining what they considered a weapon of mass destruction. All of a sudden, it went from something that would take out, I don't know, maybe several city blocks or something like that, to something to the equivalent of what happened at the Boston Marathon bombing. Now, I'm not saying, and I'm not going to debate what was up with it. I've got my questions. Everybody's got their questions. But from what we were told, from what we were shown, I would say that that's absolutely tragic. That was absolutely a nightmare. But if you were to ask me if I would deem that a weapon of mass destruction, no. Not a weapon of mass destruction, no. I would think a weapon of mass destruction would be something much larger, and it has always been considered something much, much larger. I mean, we're talking things like missiles and stuff like that. We're talking military, big boom type of stuff. And that was concerning to me. And I'm actually surprised that we haven't saw that redefining rear its ugly head more than what we have. I've seen it used a couple of times, but honestly not much. But it's there. It's another card they've got up their sleeve that they can pull out at any time. And that is what's concerning. They've got, one of the things I really try to hit home here, and this is why it's important not to be a Johnny-come-lately in this stuff. There's stuff that I've been watching literally over decades unfold, different things that they were doing, and you could literally watch them building the puzzle pieces. And now, again, decades later from all these puzzle pieces being built, I'm sitting here watching them lock them right in place. And it's highly concerning. It's highly concerning. And now, basically, all they really need is to start implementing laws or rules, much like this right here, that will allow them to pick and choose at will any one of us and disappear us. And absolutely, they've had the ability to do that ever since, I don't know, Obama. It was one of the NDAAs. I can't remember which one exactly. But they've been able to do that for a long time. Not been used much. Has been used. Not been used much that I know of. But again, there was certain criteria that you had to meet within reason for them to do it. What I think they are doing right now is opening up that net so that many more instances would be able to be drug in and labeled pretty much anything that they want. And that's what I find concerning. Again, this is with the military. But we're seeing, like in New York, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing actually something more alarming than this, but at the same time very similar in nature. Because, believe me, if they deem a military member, if they deem them extremists, they're going to camp. They're going to their own camp. So, I don't know. This is just crazy. Let me try to drag this window down here. Let me see. Really don't see a need to go through all of that and read all that good stuff. I call it good stuff. You'd probably fall asleep. But you get the gist of it, and it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, let me have a sip of coffee. Oh, man. Coffee going down good. So I wanted to talk about that. And again, I think that's very important. I think the bill that's in committee in New York right now is a very important thing to keep an eye on. Not going to sit there and dive real deep in that bill in New York yet. Let's see where it goes. And, I mean, we are not headed in a good direction at all. Not in actually any area. Let me go ahead. We'll jump on into what's going on with nations here. We'll start off with China. This headline here says Taiwan is a wanderer bound for home. Now, the Chinese foreign minister said that. says right here, self-governed Taiwan is not a pawn that can be used to play political chess, but a wanderer that will eventually reunify with the mainland, China's FM has said, accusing the U.S. of using the island nation to control Beijing. Tensions over the Taiwan issue have been on the rise, with President Joe Biden continuing to bolster ties with the island in line with long-standing U.S. policy of strategic ambiguity. Kinda. Almost had it right. Which has seen more than $32 billion worth of weapons being shipped to Taiwan since 2009. U.S. warships routinely cross the Taiwan Strait, enraging Beijing, which deems them a threat to regional stability. Earlier this month, the Pentagon notched up tensions even further by suggesting that Beijing is likely preparing an invasion to take the island by force, but offered no evidence of such plans. Speaking at a foreign policy conference in Beijing on Monday, China's state counselor and foreign minister Wang Yi accused Washington of trying to undermine the status quo in Taiwan Strait by treating the island nation, which China sees as an inalienable part of its territory, as a minor chess piece. Wang argued that the crux of the problem lies in the fact that Taipei relies on the United States for independence, adding that sooner or later the island will be unified with the rest of China. It's a hell of a statement if you really kind of think about it. That Taipei relies on the United States for independence. Echoing the rhetoric by Chinese President Xi Jinping, Wang said that Taiwan's reunification with China is just a question of time. China must and will be reunified, he stressed. He noted that there has been growing support for the One China principle around the world, referring to the recent decision by the government of Nicaragua to break ties with Taipei. 10 days ago, we resumed diplomatic relations with Nicaragua. The total number of countries with whom China has diplomatic ties has increased to 181, and the One China consensus has been consolidated internationally, he said. So, there's that. It really does look like there is a serious attempt, or will be, I should say, to push forward with this reunification. I really do think that there's a fairly good chance. My neck, sorry. Not like having anything going wrong. My neck just got a crick in it and hurts. Anyway, I think what we're going to see is both countries move. I really do. I think that we're going to see Russia take a move, and I think we're going to see China take a move. I don't know which one's going to be first. I suspect Russia. That's my gut feeling. My gut feeling is that Russia's going to move first. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be without any type of provocation. Okay, all I'm saying is out of the countries, Russia and China, I think Russia is going to make the first move. And then once that scuffle gets kicked off, I think China's going to move in. That's just my thoughts. My crystal ball is broken. But that's just my thoughts. And once again, whatever you want to call it, a show of together. We'll call it a show of togetherness. China responds to attempts to divide Russia from Beijing. Here it says China's close relations with Russia will not weaken, and the two countries will always remain friends, even if there are changes in the international geopolitical situation, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said on Monday. Wang's comments come less than a week after Russian President Vladimir Putin held a video conference with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. In recent years, as both countries have become more adversarial with the U.S., the two presidents have become closer, with Xi even once referring to Putin as his best friend. Speaking to a symposium on the development of Chinese diplomacy, Wang stressed that Beijing intended to maintain mutually beneficial relations with Moscow. No matter what changes occur in the world, the Sino-Russian friendship, which has been passed down from generation to generation, will always be strong, he said, stating that the two countries would work together for peace and stability. Our countries have become a classic example of forming mutually trusting relations between great powers, the Chinese foreign minister added, describing the nations as being united like a rock. So, yeah. And they're making it very clear to the world that whatever it is that happens, that you can count those two in with one another. Yesterday, during the monologue, I pointed out a video I watched yesterday from Bo the Fifth Column, and I think it was yesterday. Yeah. And I commented that, it seemed like, it just seems to me like he's a bit afraid of accepting reality, meaning Poe, because he personally doesn't think that China would do it. And he doesn't, well, I don't think he thinks that, either one of them would go to war with the U.S. And I would say that mindset right now, to think that neither Russia or China would go to war with the U.S. is pretty naive. I'm just being honest. Man, there's a lot of built up tensions. And people need to understand that one of the biggest reasons why they feel that China is not a threat, that they would not go to war with us, is because of the trade. And that's a fair point. But let me explain a couple of things. Number one, the United States is in huge debt. Huge. And a good portion of that debt is to who? China? Huh. Right now, that's one. Two, right now, the United States is in very severe economic turmoil. You know this, I know this. They know this. And I realize that most of the countries around the world, and again, that's just another reason why I think we're heading towards a global conflict, because most of the countries of the world right now are in some form or another in economic turmoil. And, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. And they have a whole lot of reasons why they might want to get a punch or two in. So to just write it off and to say that, nah, wouldn't happen, they wouldn't do that, I think it's a bit foolish. I think that's what we're looking at. I think we're staring right down the barrel of it. But I think that initially, and this is my thoughts, my opinions, I think initially it's going to start with Russia. But anyway, I wanted to make sure to show you that. Got a couple more here for you involving Russia. First one's not a super big deal, but you always want to keep an eye on this stuff. Hang on, I'm just having a couple of vapes. Alright, now I got the place fogged up. Alright, so as you know, the tensions with Russia and everything involved is also heating up. Not just between the United States and Russia either. Russia's got its tensions with other much closer countries as well. As you know, they've been kind of feuding with Germany and I think Poland and other countries. And this has been an escalation that's been building up. Russia said they were going to respond, and they absolutely did. Now, they said they were going to respond to, and I can't remember what it was. This article might say, hang on. The headline is, Russia shows German diplomats the door. It says, Russia has declared 2 German diplomats persona non grata. Monday's move is intended as a response to a similar decision taken by Germany last week, the foreign ministry in Moscow explained. Comes just days after Berlin showed 2 Russian envoys the door after a German court sentenced a Russian national to life in prison over the murder of a Chechen separatist. Zelimkhan Kangoshvili. I don't even know if I was anywhere close to that. In 2009, they, and I'm not trying to say it again, had been wanted in Russia on multiple charges. 3 years prior, he had moved to Germany and applied for asylum there. Germany's foreign ministry reacted to the expulsion with a statement describing the step as not surprising and yet completely unfounded from the perspective of the German government. However, Berlin insisted its own decision to boot out 2 Russian representatives was an appropriate reaction to a major violation of Germany's sovereignty. The statement concluded by saying that Moscow's decision would further strain relations. So it's just sorry, I was adjusting my neck. Just a diplomatic tit for tat back and forth, but this is indeed important stuff to pay attention to. Because when they start pulling out all of their representation from other countries, things are going to get real. Now, I'm not saying they're doing that yet, but let's keep an eye on it. It has been a slow progression of pulling diplomats out. A lot of countries have been doing it. But watch out for when they really start pulling out diplomats, because that's when it's probably going to go hot pretty quick. So, just something to keep an eye on. I wanted to bring it to your attention. And the last one here before we go to headlines that I have for you. Russia promises military response to further NATO expansion. So now they're just right out saying it. This is what I'm saying. I do think that something is going to spark off. And I do think that it's going to be, I'm not taking any sides or anything. I'm just here to report news. I think that NATO is going to make an attempt at expansion, right? However you may view that, whether it be just putting more materials and weaponry and all that stuff into places like Ukraine, or Finland, like, you know, they're starting to do. Poland. However, I do think that there's a point in which Russia will respond. And that is what I think is going to kick things off. That's just my opinion. And then I think subsequently, a very short time later, you're going to see China make a move on Taiwan. So that's how I think this is going to roll out. But anyway, let me read this article here. It says, NATO must be aware that pushing further into Eastern Europe past Moscow's declared red lines will make a military response inevitable, a top Russian diplomat has warned, amid escalating tensions with the U.S.-led bloc. Speaking to Rossiya 24 TV on Monday, Konstantin Gavrilov, the head of the Russian delegation to the negotiations on military security and arms control in Vienna, said Washington was obliged to engage in a dialogue with Moscow on security guarantees for the sake of peace on the continent, whether officials wanted it or not. The conversation must be serious, and everyone in NATO is well aware, despite all the power and strength that is necessary to take concrete political actions. Otherwise, the alternative is a military response from Russia, he explained. Gavrilov's comments came shortly after Moscow issued two documents, one for NATO and the other for U.S. officials, requesting a wide range of assurances it said were aimed at enhancing the security of all parties. The proposal to NATO focuses mainly on the movement of personnel and hardware. That's why I specifically mentioned that. And includes the requirement that Kiev's long-held ambition to join the bloc would not be realized. A separate clause calls for the current members to renounce any military activity on the territory of Ukraine as well as in Eastern Europe, the South Caucasus, and Central Asia. Caca. In its proposition to Washington, Moscow requested that officials commit to ruling out expansion into former Soviet republics. Concerns over a U.S.-led military bloc's potential widening into Eastern Europe have been reignited in recent weeks. Speaking via video link earlier this month, Russian President Vladimir Putin told his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden his country was seriously interested in getting reliable and firm legal guarantees that would prohibit NATO's expansion further eastwards, as well as the deployment of offensive strike weapons systems nearby. And as you know, NATO has went ahead and said that they at least have claimed that they are going to push forward. And I'm not necessarily saying bring in Ukraine as a NATO member right now or anything like that, but as far as equipment, they've already at least verbally committed to that they're going to be building up more supplies and equipment and stuff like that in Eastern Europe, as well as Ukraine. So, definitely not good stuff. Definitely not good stuff. Not all of this, in my opinion, by the way, has to do, because I know a lot of people would think that a good majority of it has to do with the pipeline and stuff like that. And that indeed is a big part of this. Resources and the economy are a nasty trigger for conflict. And, we always keep hearing about this global debt. And I always ask the same question, and I'm going to ask it again. Who do we owe? Pluto? Jupiter? Mars? How do you owe global debt? At some point, couldn't countries and international banks kind of look at each other and say, hey, stuff's really messed up, and we need to kind of take care of some of this debt. We need to, because let's face it, a lot of that debt was accrued by hook or crook. Let's be honest. There's a lot of nations that are in serious debt to organizations like the IMF, for example. And they were screwed. Absolutely screwed. Say there's civil war, or let's say there's conflict, let's say there's war of any kind in the country, and the country undergoes, just horrific damage. Now they've got to rebuild. Well, that takes money, that takes funds, that takes resources. And so what the IMF is popular for doing is moving in, loaning the money, loan sharking the money to rebuild the country, but it puts the country's resources as collateral. Now, mind you, that loan is something that isn't going to be able to be paid back. So then, when they default as many nations have done, the IMF can swoop in at any time and take their assets. And I think we're going to see that. I do think we're going to see that. I think that's going to be just another part of this great reset. The sad thing is they could reset it to our benefit. Absolutely. And it wouldn't hurt anybody. It just wouldn't. Who do you think would really, really hurt right now if the global debt was cleared? Would you? If the global debt was cleared? If everybody's debt was cleared. We weren't going to change up anything. Currencies, nothing. Just a clearing of the debt across the board. Since everything's all jacked up. And has been for decades. But that's not how they want to do it. It's not how they want to do it. Anyway, kind of got a long way from there, but, there's a lot going on. And again, economies are a large reason, economies, resources, stuff like that nations will go to war with one another. And not only are we in those situations, but we're also among a bunch of different cycles, if you will, to where it doesn't look real good. I think this is the direction we're heading. Let me have a sip of coffee. We'll start some headlines and like I say, just be ready. And for what, I don't know. Could be grid down, whether that be short-term, long-term, who knows? Who knows? It could just be a global internet outage. Or even just a national one. Whatever. You don't think that would cause havoc in this country? Let's say the power never flickered. Never flickered. But we lost the internet across the entire nation. You don't think that would put a hurtin'? By the way, it would just put a hurtin' on us. You know why? Because companies, at least they used to, can't guarantee they still do, but companies like Walmart use satellite to transfer their data. So you see, they could just wipe our internet out. But much like other things seem completely powerless over Walmart, different types of illnesses and stuff that can't seem to, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. And also likely that a big internet virus, if you will, wouldn't hurt them either. Because they've got, from my understanding, their own systems entirely. So it's what it's like to have Walmart money. Well, yeah, I need that secured connection to my yacht. Of course, be sitting in a bathtub with a little bitty Hot Wheels yacht. But anyway. Alright. Let's do some headlines. And I was doing pretty good tonight. Hang on. Alrighty. All the headlines were stuff I shared out this morning. Or started sharing out this morning, I should say. I already covered this first one here. A billionaire safely returns from space, and I don't know, your first response might be, damn it. But yeah, a Japanese fashion tycoon. And I don't know how real good I am with this. Man, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old, but I don't know how much of a fan I am. Well, the space travel thing don't bother me. Like riding the big space palace into the air, like folks have been doing. That's one thing. That really doesn't bother me so much, to be honest. I don't care. However, I want to say that in this particular case, I think they went, to the International Space Station, right? In fact, they were there 12 days at the International Space Station. Now, I've kind of got a problem with using the ISS as a hotel, a tourist attraction. I don't know. Something just doesn't sit well with me when it comes to that. Again, if they want to take a cruise through space or whatever, fine. But just would kind of prefer they leave the space station out of it, including movies. Because if you don't recall, they shot a movie in the space station. When disembarking from the space station, they knocked it out of position or whatever. They had to make readjustments, which was no big deal. But of course, it's not like they were spiraling out of control or anything like that. Kim Jong-un's sister, rumored to take on a new role. Parrots' drinking problems lead to flying accidents. Hey, it's a thing, man. It is a thing. It says red-winged parrots are getting loaded on alcohol-rich mangoes and dying of intoxication or accidents caused by flying under the influence, Australian veterinarians have warned. So it says here December is the end of the mango season in Western Australia's Kimberley region, so there's a lot of fallen fruit on the ground. Being especially rich in sugar, mangoes produce high amounts of alcohol while rotting under the sun. The abundance of free booze has become a real threat to local red-winged parrots, which are simply addicted to the fermented mangoes. So they're alcoholics, is what you're saying, and we need to put them in little parrot AA programs. So that'd be interesting. Let me know how that works out for you. Israel declares U.S. a no-go zone for travelers. Crypto investment in 2021 tops all previous years combined. Tens of thousands flood Vienna streets to commemorate COVID victims. Kremlin lashes out at dangerous fools. UK ex-minister links his resignation to COVID restrictions. I don't know. I threw the word letter in there. I don't know why. EU demands inclusion in Russia and U.S. NATO security talks. 26-year-old dies after one dose of the Pfizer COVID vaccine. That was in New Zealand. Entire hospital wards are at risk of shutdown over vaccine mandate row. And again, this is across the pond, I believe, in the UK. Third grader told to portray Hitler and commit suicide, says reports. That was at a school, an elementary school in Washington, D.C. Where else? Angry owner blows up his Tesla. That's kind of funny. I actually watched that earlier. Used 13 kilograms of dynamite and blew it all to hell. So what the deal was, he bought this. I guess this was one of the early models of the Tesla Model S. and the batteries went bad in it. So he went to find out, hey, what's it going to cost me to put a new battery in this thing? And found out that that particular number happened to be, in U.S., $22,500 to put a new battery in the Tesla. And so he decided that it needed to take a ride into space, and strapped 300 kilograms of dynamite and blew it all to hell. It was kind of funny. Iran explains blast near a nuclear plant. European gas prices surge. U.S. Navy vessels fired on mystery drone swarms, says the media. This was back in 2019, so just wanted to make that clear. It's not something that just happened. U.S. and NATO won't accept Russia's security demands, so what next? France's First Lady plagued by rumors that she was born a male. I was just pausing for effect, that's all. Pope reveals what's almost satanic about COVID-19 pandemic. We could help you out with that answer, but that's not what it's not what he was saying. He was saying domestic abuse, which I'm sure has been an epidemic during all of this. Ex-Mossad chief leaked classified info to married lover. Probably shouldn't have done that, yo. Hang on here. Anti-vaxxers said to book COVID job appointments and not show up. That's, I believe, in Britain. 8 people injured in accident involving U.S. military convoy. That happened in Bavaria. Scientists warned to send human cells into space in battle against aging. So, can we just start sending up people like Pelosi and stuff? Biden? I mean, wouldn't they want to feel younger? Wouldn't they want to be younger? Wouldn't they want to? We could sell it that way to them. We'll just send them into space. Right? Tell them to return when they feel 18 again. EU regulator approves 5th COVID-19 vaccine. Let me repeat that, just in case you didn't hear me. EU regulator approves 5th, that's with a 5, COVID-19 vaccine. You know. You know. World's biggest economics event canceled over Omicron, and that would be the, that one. The World Economic Forum, I believe. Woke demands similar to religious fervor, university professor reportedly says. Election shocks stock market in Chile. A mysterious tank was spotted floating at sea. I would say a tank floating would be pretty mysterious. But I could be wrong. Maybe tanks float, but I doubt it. I kind of doubt it. I don't know where they would have hid the ballast tanks. A submarine tank? That would be kind of cool. Belarusian diplomat injured in London embassy attack, Minsk claims. Russia expels 2 German diplomats. I think somebody built a boat. Seriously. I think somebody built a boat. And that's what that was. That was somebody's toy. Just my guess. It's a tank. Correct me if I'm wrong, but tanks don't float. Now, I do know that APCs, stuff like APCs can float. But that doesn't look like an APC to me. Oops, I opened that in another window, sorry. That doesn't look like an APC. I could be wrong. I definitely don't know my military hardware. It could be an APC, but it kind of looks tankish. I don't know. But it was, I guess Indonesia is where? I don't know. Again, I could be wrong. That might be an APC of some type, and like I say, some of those do float. Trying to see if there's any words or anything. Yeah, words. As to what it resembled. Yeah, and see, they even call it like a tank-like object. I mean, if this was something that one of the militaries was using, I would say there's a good chance somebody would recognize it. So, very interesting, though. Just trying to blow it out. Yeah, to me that just doesn't look like the APCs that I've seen. That looks more like a tank. I don't know. Sorry I spent so much time on it. That's just kind of interesting. It got me wondering. Let's see. Covered that. Covered that. And that. Anti-vax group vows to open clinics. McDonald's customer chows down while pedaling exercise bike. Yes, in China. In China, you can now eat your burger and exercise at the same time. There you have it. Armed man takes hostages in Paris store. And if this is the one I remember from earlier. Yeah. It just, I don't know, something just seems odd when they say armed man and they're talking about a knife. They're not talking about a gun. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm from here and armed typically means there's a firearm involved. Global supply chain problems may mean no gifts this Christmas. I thought I was just bad. Children receive unapproved COVID vaccine. Yeah, Santa just told me, are you kidding me? Let's see. Epstein's Madame Maxwell is sophisticated predator, says the prosecution. Migrants stuck on Belarus-Poland border suffered shocking levels of brutality, says a report. Bojo's popularity sinks to a record low. Community sues noise-polluting Navy and wins. Manchin accuses White House staff of inexcusable actions. I covered that. Biden pushes aggressive green mileage standard. A soldier who defected to Belarus should be executed, says former Polish commander. South African government advised to stop COVID quarantining. Donald Trump Jr. explains why China's laughing at the U.S. military. Dominance of U.S. trans college swimmer is like allowing doping, warns a magazine chief. And I got to thinking about that, and yeah, I can see the similarities there. I mean, like somebody getting all coked up and going and competing, you know. Washington, D.C. reimposes COVID emergency. Ukraine's ex-president Poroshenko targeted in high treason case. Queen cancels Christmas travel, taking precautionary approach. FCC settles with phone companies over failed 911 emergency calls. A gender-critical ex-cop wins free speech judgment. Russia could ban sentient killer robots. Let's see. Article here. Watch out for these 5 early Omicron symptoms, study says. Shared that out for folks for information. New U.S. city requires proof of COVID vaccination. That would be Boston. And the only thing I've got to say to that is, I should say, is where do they keep the tea in Boston? I mean, I'm sure that they no longer keep it on the ships, but is there a dock or something where the tea is? Asking for a friend. Let's see. 6.2 quake strikes off the coast of California. Pentagon's new extremism rules extend to likes, says reports. A massive dust storm engulfs an Australian town. Let's see. Article about how much money Russia's pumped into crypto. Trump touts COVID-19 vaccines and reveals his booster status. He let everybody know that he was boostered up. And apparently the crowd booed. Alex Jones sues Pelosi, U.S. Capitol says, and the U.S. Capitol Riot Committee. Sorry. Belgian military hit by cyber attack. Trump also sues the New York Attorney General. Omicron becomes dominant COVID variant in the U.S. Now they're saying that more than 73% of the new cases are Omicron. And I'm curious how. I mean, if they get a positive case, I mean, do they resend every single positive case into a lab to be able to identify exactly which strain it is? They might. I don't know. Kind of just curious on that. Japan agrees to pay more for hosting U.S. troops. And Biden staffer tests positive for COVID. So there you go. That would be the news. That was a fair amount of news today. And like I say, there was some considerable things that happened. So keep a close eye on this stuff, because things are really moving fast. And like I said, I don't really see things letting up before Christmas. In fact, if anything, I mean, this is crazy upside down world right now. Normally, and we're not in normally anymore, normally things kind of level off and calm down right before the holidays, because they would normally let us at least have that. But I think those days are gone. I think this year it's going to keep coming. And I don't know that anything super big major is going to happen in between now and Christmas and or the New Year. But I will say that I think that it will, at a minimum, keep at its current pace and level of craziness. But I do think after the first, I think after New Year's, we're going to be in for a ride. So that's just my thoughts, you know? And there's nothing wrong with being ready for it in case it happens. I'm telling you, we're looking at so many different things right now that can really put a dent in our everyday life. You know, so many different things that could affect or maybe even completely wipe out the supply chain for a period of time. That would put a sure hurting on us in a hurry. And you know, going back to what I was talking about, a possible conflict between nations, we have to understand, you know, if we start trading punches with either Russia or China, you can bet those imports are going to stop real quick. Then where's that put us? You know, even if there's no conflict seen on the shores of the United States of America, we're still going to be all but brought to our knees just by losing that supply line. Because unfortunately, everything's outsourced. All of our manufacturing was moved out. So even little simple things will become much harder to get and exponentially more expensive. So get ready for that. Get ready for that. Anyway, I am going to get out of here and relax the rest of the evening. I hope you all have a good night. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. I hope to see you then. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.